Commander Zeftal of the Korthian Exploration Fleet stared at the blue marble spinning slowly on his tactical display. Earth. The third planet from a yellow star and what the locals called the Sol system. For the past 6 cycles, his fleet had been observing this world from the edge of the system, gathering data and preparing reports for the High Command. What they had found made no sense. Tactical Officer Vryn, Zeftal called across the bridge of his flagship, the Voidpiercer. Run the defensive analysis again. Vryn's forearms danced across her console with practiced efficiency. Her species, the Korthians, had conquered 17 star systems through superior technology and tactical brilliance. They knew how to recognize threats. That was precisely what made Earth so puzzling. Sir, the results are unchanged, Vryn reported, her voice carrying the same confusion that had plagued the crew for weeks. Surface-based nuclear weapons, primitive by galactic standards. No orbital defense platforms. No energy shields protecting major population centers. Their most advanced spacecraft barely reached their own moon. Zeftal's mandibles clicked in frustration. And yet, sir, there are no signs of any previous invasion attempts. No orbital debris from destroyed fleets. No radiation signatures from planetary bombardment. No evidence that any species has ever tried to claim this world. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship systems. Every officer present understood the implications. Earth sat in a region of space where 3 major galactic powers had territorial interests. The hegemony, the collective, and the empire all maintained forces within 50 light-years of this system. For a world with such primitive defenses to remain untouched was impossible. Unless there was something they were missing. Science Officer Kthar, Zeftal addressed the tall, crystalline being at the sensor station. What about hidden technology? Cloaked satellites? Subspace weapons? Thar's form shimmered as he processed the question. His species had developed beyond the need for traditional biology, existing as living crystal matrices capable of incredible computational power. If anyone could detect hidden defenses, it would be him. Negative, Commander. Our scans have penetrated every layer of electromagnetic spectrum. We have detected no cloaked objects larger than their primitive space stations. No subspace distortions that would indicate hidden weapon platforms. Their technology appears to be exactly what it seems, primitive chemical rockets and basic fusion reactors. Communications Officer Yal spoke up from her station. Sir, I have been monitoring their global communication networks. The humans appear completely unaware of our presence. Their governments show no signs of preparing for invasion. In fact, they seem more concerned with fighting each other than defending against external threats. This was perhaps the most baffling aspect of all. Most civilizations, upon reaching spaceflight capability, quickly developed early warning systems for detecting approaching ships. They established protocols for first contact. They united their planetary governments to present a single face to the galaxy. Humans did none of these things. Show me their current conflicts, Zeftal ordered. The main screen shifted to display a political map of Earth. Red zones marked areas of active warfare. Yellow indicated tensions. Green showed peaceful regions. There was far more red and yellow than green. They are fighting over territory, resources, and ideological differences, Yal explained. At least 47 separate conflicts are currently active. Their largest nations maintain massive military forces, but these are designed entirely for fighting other humans. Zeftal studied the display. Military forces. Tell me about their capabilities. Vryn's console chimed as she pulled up the relevant data. Impressive for their technology level, sir. They possess approximately 40,000 nuclear weapons spread across multiple nations. Their conventional forces number in the millions. They have demonstrated the ability to project power across their entire planet within hours. But, all designed for warfare against their own species? Correct, sir. Their weapons, tactics, and strategies are optimized for fighting other humans on planetary surfaces. Nothing suggests they have ever considered defense against orbital attack. This should have made Earth an easy target. Any competent species could simply bombard the planet from orbit, destroy military installations, and demand surrender. The humans had no ability to retaliate against ships in space. So why had no one tried? Access the galactic database, Zeftal commanded. search for any reference to Sol system, Earth, or humans. Thar's crystalline form pulsed with activity as he interfaced with their quantum communication array. The search would take several minutes as the signal traveled to the nearest galactic database hub and back. While they waited, Zeftal reviewed what they knew. The Korthians had discovered Earth purely by accident. They had been pursuing a research vessel that had fled into uncharted space after stealing classified weapons data. The trail had led them here, to this seemingly insignificant yellow star. The thieves were long gone, their ship's signature lost in the cosmic background radiation. But they had found something far more interesting than stolen technology. They had found a mystery. "Sir," Thar announced, "I am receiving data now." The main screen filled with scrolling text in various galactic languages. Zeftal watched as references to Earth appeared, dozens of them, spanning back over 2,000 Earth years. "Filter for military intelligence reports," he ordered. The list shortened dramatically, but several entries remained. Zeftal selected the first one, a report from a hegemony scout ship dated 1847 Earth years ago. "System designated Sol 3 contains intelligent life," he read aloud. "Species designation, human. Technology level, pre-industrial. Recommendation, monitor for development. Note, species shows unusual aggression levels and rapid technological advancement. Suggest caution in first contact protocols." The next report came from a collective exploration vessel, dated 743 Earth years ago. "Human civilization has developed gunpowder and ocean navigation. Military conflicts observed on multiple continents simultaneously. Species demonstrates concerning levels of violence but remarkable adaptability. Recommend continued observation without contact." More reports followed, each separated by decades or centuries, each recommending the same thing: watch and wait. Here, Vryn called out, highlighting a report from an Empire battle group dated just 127 Earth years ago. "This one is different." Zeftal read the classified military assessment with growing amazement. "Fleet Admiral Koros reports successful observation mission to Sol system. Human species has developed chemical explosives of remarkable destructive power. Witness demonstration of coordinated warfare involving millions of combatants across multiple continents. Species has weaponized atmospheric flight and underwater travel. Recommendation, maintain surveillance perimeter. Do not engage without overwhelming force." "Overwhelming force?" Zeftal muttered. They were still using chemical weapons and metal projectiles. But the reports continued. Each successive entry showed the same pattern. As human technology advanced, galactic observers became more cautious, not less. The most recent entry made Zeftal's blood run cold. Filed by Admiral Nexus of the Hegemony 4th Fleet, dated just 12 Earth years ago, humans have achieved nuclear fission and fusion. Demonstrated ability to deliver weapons across planetary distances within minutes. Species has developed early spaceflight capability. Of greater concern, humans have shown capacity for what they term total war, complete mobilization of planetary resources for military purposes. Observed conflicts suggest species capable of sustaining casualty rates that would break any known civilization. Recommend maintaining current non-interference protocols. Species presents unknown but potentially extreme threat if provoked. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Every major galactic power knew about Earth. Every one of them had studied human warfare. And every one of them had reached the same conclusion: leave them alone. "Sir," Yal said quietly, "I am detecting multiple ships at the edge of the system." "Hostile?" Zeftal asked, suddenly, very aware of how exposed his small exploration fleet was. "Unknown. They are maintaining position approximately 1 light-hour distant. No active targeting, but they are definitely watching us." "How many ships?" Thar's form flickered with rapid calculations. "I count at least 40 vessels. Multiple configurations. Hegemony, Collective, and Empire signatures all present." Zeftal felt his heart sink. They had stumbled into what appeared to be a permanent observation post. Ships from 3 different galactic powers, all maintaining watch over one primitive planet. "Are they communicating with each other?" "Negative, sir. Each fleet maintains strict isolation. But they are all watching the humans. And now they are watching us." A new message appeared on Zeftal's command console. Priority military communication, origin, hegemony 4th Fleet. Unknown vessel, you have entered a restricted observation zone. Identify yourself immediately. Before Zeftal could respond, a second message arrived from the Collective Observer Group, Corthian ship. This system is under scientific protection protocols. State your business. A third message followed from the Empire forces. Commander Zeftal, you are ordered to maintain minimum safe distance from the third planet. Compliance is mandatory. Somehow, they knew his name. Responses, sir? Yal asked. Zeftal considered his options. 3 major powers were telling him to stay away from Earth, but none of them were claiming ownership. That suggested something more complex than simple territorial control. Reply to all 3 fleets. Corthian Exploration Fleet requests information on restricted status of Sol 3. What is the nature of the threat? The responses came back almost immediately. From the Hegemony, threat assessment classified. Maintain observation distance. From the Collective, scientific data restricted to authorized personnel. Do not approach planet. From the Empire, some knowledge comes at too high a price, Corthian. Your fleet is small. That last message sent chills through Zeftal's exoskeleton. The Empire fleet commander was suggesting that learning about Earth's secrets might cost them their lives. Sir, Vryn reported, I am detecting energy buildups across all 3 alien fleets. They are powering weapons. Against us? Unknown. The targeting patterns are unclear. Zeftal made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. All ships, maintain current position but full passive scanning only. I want to know what these humans have done to scare 3 galactic powers into a permanent standoff. For the next several hours, they watched and listened. The human planet continued its rotation, completely unaware that nearly 100 warships from 4 different species hung at the edge of their system, all watching, all waiting. And, slowly, a picture began to emerge from the intercepted communications between the 3 observing fleets. The humans had never been invaded because every species that had seriously considered it had reached the same terrifying conclusion: the cost would be too high. Not because Earth was well defended, but because of what humans themselves were capable of when threatened. As Zeftal pieced together fragments of classified reports and overheard communications, he began to understand why the galaxy's greatest military powers treated one primitive planet with such caution. It wasn't about the humans' weapons. It was about the humans themselves. Admiral Nexus of the Hegemony 4th Fleet had been watching Earth for 12 standard years. From his command ship Eternal Dominion, positioned exactly 1.2 light-hours from the blue planet, he maintained what galactic military doctrine called safe observation distance. There was nothing safe about it. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, Commander Threx, the Corthian Exploration Fleet is requesting detailed threat assessment data on the humans. Nexus manipulated his ship's sensors to focus on the small Corthian fleet. 5 ships, barely enough to scout a single system, led by what appeared to be a young commander who had no idea what he was dealing with. Deny the request, Nexus ordered. Send them the standard warning protocols. Sir, they persist in asking questions. The commander wants to know why we maintain permanent observation posts around a primitive world. Nexus sighed, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through his augmented vocal cords. The Hegemony had gifted him with mechanical enhancements that made him one of their most effective military commanders. Enhanced reflexes, tactical processing capabilities, and direct neural interface with his ship's systems. He could coordinate a battle across multiple star systems while simultaneously managing resource allocation for an entire fleet. None of that preparation had been adequate for understanding humans. Display the historical files, he commanded. Authorization Nexus Prime 7. The bridge's main screen filled with classified documents spanning 2 millennia of human observation. Nexus had read every report, watched every piece of recorded footage, analyzed every conflict the humans had waged among themselves. The pattern was always the same: underestimation followed by horror. Show them file designation Terran War Analysis 1, Nexus told his communications officer. The file contained footage from what humans called World War II. Grainy black and white images showed massive formations of primitive aircraft, enormous fleets of metal ships, and millions of soldiers moving across multiple continents. Sir, Commander Threx observed, their technology in this footage is extremely primitive. Chemical weapons, kinetic projectiles, basic explosives. Continue watching, Nexus instructed grimly. The footage shifted to show industrial complexes. Massive factories producing thousands of vehicles per day. Cities transformed overnight into weapons manufacturing centers. Civilian populations organized into military production chains with efficiency that impressed even hegemony planners. This is their productive capacity during total war, Nexus explained. They converted their entire planetary economy to military purposes in less than 4 Earth years. Every major nation involved increased their military output by factors of 10 or more. The next segment showed casualty reports. Numbers that made even hegemony veterans uncomfortable. Millions dead in single battles. Entire cities destroyed. Civilian populations enduring bombing campaigns that would have broken the will of most galactic species. They kept fighting, Nexus said quietly. Through casualties that should have ended their civilization, they not only continued fighting but increased their efforts. Commander Threx studied the data with growing unease. Sir, these numbers suggest they were willing to accept extinction rather than surrender. Not willing. Eager. Nexus pulled up audio recordings of human leaders from that period. Listen to this. Winston Churchill's voice filled the bridge, speaking words that had been translated into thousands of galactic languages. We shall fight on the seas and oceans, we shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be, we shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. That speech was broadcast after their military had suffered devastating defeats, Nexus explained. They were isolated, outgunned, facing invasion by enemies with superior technology and numbers. Their response was not to seek peace. Their response was to promise more violence. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. In galactic warfare, such determination usually indicated either insanity or desperation. But the humans had demonstrated this behavior consistently across centuries. File designation Terran War Analysis 7, Nexus continued. New footage appeared, this time in color. Vietnam War era, showing a technologically superior force fighting an asymmetric conflict against human defenders. The larger force had overwhelming technological advantages, Nexus narrated. Advanced aircraft, chemical weapons, mobility systems far beyond their enemies' capabilities. They should have achieved victory within months. The footage showed years of fighting. Guerrilla warfare in impossible terrain. Human fighters living underground, surviving on minimal supplies, continuing operations despite horrific casualties. The technologically superior force eventually withdrew, Nexus concluded. Not because they were defeated militarily, but because they could not sustain the psychological cost of fighting an enemy that simply would not stop. Similar patterns appeared in file after file. Afghanistan invasions where multiple galactic-level powers found themselves unable to pacify human populations. Urban warfare scenarios where humans fought building by building, room by room, never accepting defeat even when facing impossible odds. The humans have a term for this, Nexus explained. They call it fighting to the last man. Most species use this phrase as hyperbole. For humans, it appears to be a literal tactical doctrine. Commander Threx was studying psychological profiles now. Sir, these cognitive assessments suggest the humans actually become more dangerous when facing overwhelming odds. Correct. Standard galactic psychology predicts that threatened populations will seek negotiated surrender when facing superior force. Human psychology appears to work in reverse. The greater the threat, the more violent their response becomes. Nexus pulled up the most disturbing files of all. Theoretical invasion scenarios, developed by the hegemony's best strategic minds. We modeled a standard planetary conquest, he explained. Orbital bombardment of military installations, followed by occupation of major population centers, then, negotiated surrender of remaining forces. The simulation played out on screen. Phase 1 showed easy destruction of human military assets. Their primitive weapons could not threaten orbital ships. Phase 2 showed successful occupation of major cities. Then, the simulation took an unexpected turn. At this point, Nexus continued, standard doctrine predicts the humans would recognize the futility of resistance and accept occupation terms. Instead, the model showed something else entirely. The human population, faced with invasion, had not sought surrender. They had gone underground. literally and figuratively. Cities became battlegrounds. Civilian populations became combatants. Infrastructure was destroyed by the humans themselves to deny it to invaders. The model predicts that subduing Earth would require, Nexus paused, checking the numbers again, complete destruction of human industrial capacity, elimination of 90% of the population, and occupation by a force larger than our entire Fourth Fleet for a minimum of 50 Earth years. To conquer one primitive planet? Commander Threx asked incredulously. That assumes they ever actually surrender, Nexus replied grimly. Alternative models suggest they might simply continue fighting indefinitely, passing resistance operations down through generations. The bridge fell silent as officers contemplated the implications. The Hegemony Fourth Fleet was one of their most powerful formations. The idea that it might not be sufficient to conquer a single pre-space civilization was deeply unsettling. There is more, Nexus continued. Show them the nuclear analysis. The screen displayed Earth's current nuclear arsenal. Primitive by galactic standards, but numerous enough to render large portions of the planet uninhabitable. Intelligence suggests that in a total war scenario, humans would not hesitate to use these weapons on their own territory to deny it to invaders. They have a documented history of destroying their own infrastructure rather than allowing enemies to benefit from it. Historical examples appeared. Sherman's March to the Sea. Soviet scorched earth tactics. Chinese flooding of the Yellow River. In case after case, humans had chosen to destroy their own resources rather than allow enemies to capture them. You are suggesting, Commander Threx said slowly, that invading Earth might result in the humans rendering their own planet uninhabitable? Not suggesting. Stating as established fact. Nexus pulled up the most recent intelligence reports. Current human military doctrine includes specific protocols for nuclear denial operations in case of planetary invasion. They would rather rule over radioactive wasteland than allow outsiders to rule over them at all. The implications were staggering. Most galactic civilizations conquered worlds to gain their resources, population, or strategic position. A world that its own inhabitants would poison rather than surrender had no value to conquerors. Furthermore, Nexus continued, the humans appear to be naturally gifted at what they call asymmetric warfare. Fighting larger, more advanced opponents through unconventional means. Examples filled the screen. David and Goliath. The Roman Empire struggling with Germanic tribes. Modern examples of small human forces defeating much larger ones through superior tactics, local knowledge, and sheer bloody-minded determination. Every galactic military academy teaches the same basic principles, Nexus observed. Superior technology plus superior numbers equals victory. Humans seem to specialize in proving this equation wrong. Commander Threx was reading personal psychological profiles now. Sir, these individual human profiles are disturbing. In what way? They show remarkable resilience to trauma, unusual capacity for violence when threatened, and an apparent inability to recognize hopeless situations. Multiple profiles describe humans who continued fighting long after rational analysis would have suggested surrender. Nexus nodded grimly. The humans have survived as a species by developing psychological traits that make them extremely dangerous opponents. They do not think like civilized beings when threatened. They revert to something far more primitive and violent. And these are the beings that three galactic powers are monitoring? These are the beings that three galactic powers are afraid of, Nexus corrected. Show them the collective's research. New files appeared, these from the scientific-focused collective. Where the hegemony analyzed military threats, the collective studied biological and psychological factors. The collective's xenobiologists have identified several unique aspects of human evolution, Nexus explained. They are persistence hunters. Their entire physiology is designed for chasing prey across vast distances until it collapses from exhaustion. Brain scans appeared, comparing human neural architecture to other galactic species. Their brains are wired differently, Nexus continued. Most species show reduced aggression when facing overwhelming odds. Human brains show increased activity in combat-related regions when facing superior opponents. They become more aggressive when losing? They become more creative in finding ways to hurt their enemies, Nexus clarified. The collective's models suggest that humans facing extinction would develop weapons and tactics that no civilized species would consider. The collective's research included theoretical projections of human behavior under extreme threat. The results were classified at the highest levels for good reason. According to their models, humans facing complete defeat might attempt to damage their attackers even if doing so guaranteed their own destruction. Kamikaze attacks, suicide bombing, poisoning enemy supplies, biological warfare, even attempts to render their solar system uninhabitable to prevent enemy use. Mutually assured destruction? Commander Threx asked. Mutually assured destruction assumes rational actors who want to survive, Nexus replied. Humans have demonstrated repeatedly that they value concepts like freedom, dignity, and revenge more than they value survival. As if to emphasize his point, alerts began chiming across the bridge. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. From the humans? Impossible. They lack the technology for interstellar communication. No sir, from one of our deep cover observation posts on the surface. Priority Alpha message. Nexus accepted the transmission with growing dread. Priority Alpha meant immediate threat to galactic security. The message was brief and terrifying. Human governments have detected orbital anomalies. They are beginning to ask questions. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the data streaming across her monitor at the Arecibo Deep Space Communications Array. As director of SETI operations, she had spent 15 years searching for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. She had never expected to find evidence that they had been watching Earth all along. Run the analysis again, she told her assistant, Marcus Rodriguez, for the third time that morning. Same results, Dr. Chen. The gravitational anomalies are consistent with massive objects maintaining stable positions at the edge of our solar system. The radio signature analysis suggests artificial sources. Marcus paused, clearly uncomfortable with the implications. There's no natural explanation for what we're seeing. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. 3 days ago, the newly upgraded detection array had begun picking up subtle gravitational disturbances in the outer solar system. Initially dismissed as instrumental errors, the readings had proven consistent across multiple observation platforms. How many objects? She asked. At least 40 distinct gravitational sources. Possibly more. They're maintaining positions that would require active station keeping. And, Sarah, Marcus hesitated, they've been there for at least 6 months. Probably longer. The implications were staggering. 40 massive objects, positioned at the edge of the solar system, watching Earth. Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities, none of them comforting. Have you shared this data with anyone else? Just you. But, the European Space Agency is asking questions about our increased observation activity. NASA wants to know why we've been tracking the outer system instead of searching for signals. Sarah made a decision that would change the course of human history. Schedule a meeting with Director Harrison at NASA, Dr. Volkov at ESA, and General Martinez at NORAD. Priority classification. What do I tell them it's about? Tell them we may have found what we've been looking for. And that it found us first. 2 hours later, Sarah stood in a secure conference room at Peterson Air Force Base, facing some of the most powerful people in human space exploration and defense. Director James Harrison of NASA looked skeptical. Dr. Elena Volkov of the European Space Agency appeared intrigued. General Roberto Martinez, commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command, looked like a man preparing for war. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring systems detected evidence of multiple large objects stationed at the edge of our solar system. She activated the holographic display, showing a three-dimensional map of the outer solar system. Red dots marked the positions of the detected objects. These objects, she continued, are maintaining active positions that require constant propulsion. They are not asteroids, comets, or any known natural phenomena. Director Harrison leaned forward. You're suggesting these are artificial objects? I'm stating it as fact. The objects are arranged in what appears to be an observation perimeter. They have been in position for months, possibly years, watching our planet. General Martinez was studying tactical displays. Size estimates? Based on gravitational signatures, each object masses between 10 and 50,000 tons. For comparison, the International Space Station masses approximately 400 tons. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 50,000 tons suggested massive ships, far beyond anything humanity could construct. Dr. Volkov spoke first. If these are observation vessels, why have they not made contact? That, Sarah replied grimly, may be the most disturbing aspect of this discovery. She changed the display to show intercept trajectories. We've been monitoring electromagnetic emissions from these objects. They are communicating with each other using quantum entanglement channels far beyond our technology. We cannot decode their transmissions, but we can analyze the patterns. Red lines appeared on the display, showing communication links between the unknown vessels. The pattern suggests at least 3 distinct groups. They are not cooperating. In fact, the positioning indicates they may be watching each other as much as they are watching us. General Martinez understood immediately. Multiple alien civilizations. All maintaining surveillance posts around Earth. All apparently avoiding contact. Correct. But there's more. Sarah activated a new display showing energy readings. Yesterday, a new group of ships arrived. Smaller vessels, different energy signatures. The moment they appeared, all 3 established groups powered up what appear to be weapons systems. The energy spikes on the display were unmistakable. Whatever weapons these ships carried, they packed enough power to be detected from Earth. They're not just watching us, Sarah concluded. They're maintaining some kind of armed standoff over our planet. Director Harrison was running calculations on his tablet. If these civilizations have the technology to reach Earth, why haven't they made contact? Why haven't they conquered us? That, General Martinez said quietly, is exactly what we need to figure out. Because something is keeping advanced alien civilizations away from Earth, and I doubt it's our primitive weapons. The meeting broke up with assignments for each agency. NASA would focus on gathering more detailed sensor data. ESA would coordinate with ground-based observatories worldwide. NORAD would begin developing response protocols for potential first contact scenarios. Sarah returned to Arecibo with a new mission: find out what the aliens were saying to each other. Over the next week, the international scientific community quietly mobilized the most comprehensive surveillance operation in human history. Radio telescopes, gravitational wave detectors, and optical observatories around the world turned their attention to the edge of the solar system. The picture that emerged was even more disturbing than Sarah had feared. We've identified at least 4 distinct civilizations, she reported in the daily briefing to government officials. Each group maintains between 8 and 15 vessels. They are clearly avoiding direct contact with each other, but they are all focused on Earth. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Japanese Space Agency had been analyzing the quantum communication patterns. The transmission volumes have increased dramatically since we began our observation efforts. It appears our activity has gotten their attention. Are they aware that we can detect them? Director Harrison asked. Unknown, but likely. Several ships have adjusted their positions in ways that suggest they know we are watching. General Martinez had been coordinating with military intelligence agencies worldwide. We've found historical evidence that we missed before. Unexplained radar contacts, satellite tracking anomalies, gravitational disturbances. These ships, or others like them, have been visiting our solar system for decades. Sarah felt a chill. How long have they been watching us? We're finding evidence going back to the 1960s. Possibly earlier, but our detection capabilities before that were too primitive to notice. Dr. Volkov had been working with radio astronomy teams across Europe. We have intercepted fragments of their communications. The signals are heavily encrypted, but we have identified recurring patterns that suggest they are sharing data about us. What kind of data? Sarah asked. Military assessments, population analyses, technological capability reports. They appear to be studying us very intensively. The most unsettling discovery came from Dr. Raj Patel at the Indian Space Research Organization. We have detected similar gravitational anomalies around other star systems. These observation fleets are not unique to Earth. They appear to be monitoring multiple worlds. A galactic surveying operation? Director Harrison suggested. Not surveying, General Martinez corrected grimly. Quarantine. He activated a new display showing the positioning of ships around Earth. Look at the arrangement. They're not exploring. They're containing. This is a blockade formation. The realization hit everyone simultaneously. Humanity was not being studied for potential contact. They were being contained like a dangerous pathogen. But why? Sarah asked. What makes Earth so dangerous that multiple alien civilizations are working together to keep us isolated? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Kim, a military psychologist who had been brought in to analyze the aliens' behavior patterns, made a connection that changed everything. I've been reviewing human military history, she explained to the assembled scientists and officials, looking for patterns that might explain why advanced civilizations would be afraid of us. She activated a presentation showing casualty statistics from human conflicts throughout history. Every other intelligent species we can theorize about would likely develop space travel before developing weapons of mass destruction. They would establish interstellar communication before perfecting the art of war. They would unite their planet before venturing into space. The presentation showed humanity's timeline. Nuclear weapons before space travel. Global communications networks used primarily for coordinating warfare. Military technology advancing far faster than peaceful space exploration. We are unique, Dr. Kim continued. We developed the ability to destroy our own planet before we developed the wisdom to leave it. Most species probably achieve peace before they achieve the ability to wage interstellar war. But, we're not in space yet, Director Harrison protested. We barely have a space station. That's not the point, General Martinez said, understanding immediately. The point is that when we do get into space, we'll bring our weapons with us. Dr. Kim nodded. Every major technological advancement in human history has been weaponized within decades of its discovery. Nuclear physics became nuclear weapons. Rockets became intercontinental missiles. Computer networks became cyber warfare tools. Sarah felt the pieces clicking into place. They're not afraid of what we are now. They're afraid of what we'll become when we have their technology. Exactly. A species that developed fusion bombs before fusion power plants. A species that used the first nuclear reaction to destroy cities. A species that turned space exploration technology into delivery systems for weapons of mass destruction. The implications were terrifying. Humanity was being quarantined not because they were primitive, but because they were dangerous. The galaxy's advanced civilizations looked at human history and saw a species that would inevitably militarize any technology they encountered. There's more, Dr. Kim continued. I've been analyzing the psychological profiles that the aliens are likely developing about us. Based on our observable behavior, they would conclude that humans are uniquely violent, unusually persistent, and incapable of accepting defeat. She showed examples from human history. Military units fighting to the last soldier. Civilian populations enduring bombing campaigns that would break other species. Resistance movements continuing for generations against impossible odds. From an outside perspective, humans appear to be the galaxy's most dangerous predators. We fight wars for concepts like honor and freedom that most logical species would consider abstractions. We sacrifice ourselves for future generations we will never meet. We continue fighting long after rational analysis suggests surrender. General Martinez was studying the alien ship positions again. If that's true, then this blockade makes perfect sense. They're not containing us because we're weak. They're containing us because we're dangerous. Sarah looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leadership, seeing the same realization in their eyes. Earth wasn't defenseless. Earth was terrifying. The question now, she said quietly, is what happens when they realize we know they're there? As if summoned by her words, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Dr. Rodriguez burst into the conference room, his face pale with fear. Dr. Chen, you need to see this immediately. The alien ships are moving. All of them. They're changing formation. On the display, red dots that had remained stationary for months were suddenly, in motion, converging on a single point directly between Earth and the approaching Corthian exploration fleet. Whatever was about to happen, the galaxy's most powerful civilizations were taking no chances with the humans. Commander Zeftal watched in growing horror as his tactical display updated with new ship positions. The three observation fleets that had maintained careful distances from each other for years were now moving in perfect coordination. 47 warships from 3 different galactic powers, all converging on his small exploration fleet. Sir, Tactical Officer Vryn reported, her voice tight with fear, they are not targeting us. They are forming a barrier between us and the planet. A barrier? Zeftal studied the formation taking shape. The alien ships were arranging themselves in overlapping fields of fire that would prevent any vessel from reaching Earth. Why would 3 enemy fleets cooperate to protect a primitive world? Science Officer Kthar's crystalline form pulsed with frantic calculations. Commander, I am detecting massive energy buildups from the planet's surface. The humans are activating every detection system they possess. The main screen split to show both the converging alien fleets and Earth itself. Across the planet's surface, radio telescopes were turning skyward, military radar installations were powering up, and space agencies were frantically launching monitoring satellites. They know we're here, Communications Officer Yal announced. The humans have detected the presence of ships in their system. Admiral Nexus's voice crackled across the emergency channel. Corthian vessel, you will withdraw immediately. Your presence has compromised operational security. Before Zeftal could respond, additional messages flooded in from the Collective and Empire fleets. All carried the same message: leave now, or be destroyed. Sir, Vryn said quietly, we should comply. Whatever is happening here, we are clearly outgunned. But Zeftal had spent his career exploring the unknown. The mystery of Earth had consumed him for weeks. To leave now, just as the truth was finally emerging, was unthinkable. Open a channel to all fleets, he ordered. Sir, that's extremely, do it. Yal's hands trembled as she opened the communication channel. For the first time in galactic history, ships from 4 different powers were in direct communication in the same system. This is Commander Zeftal of the Corthian Exploration Fleet, he announced. I request information on the true nature of the quarantine around Sol 3. The silence stretched for long minutes. Then, Admiral Nexus responded, his voice heavy with resignation. Commander, you have stumbled into the galaxy's most classified military operation. What you are witnessing is not a blockade. It is a containment protocol for the most dangerous species ever encountered. Dangerous? Zeftal could not hide his disbelief. They cannot even reach their own moon reliably. That is precisely what makes them dangerous, came a new voice. Commodore Zirin of the Collective Scientific Fleet. A species that develops weapons before wisdom. A species that perfects the art of war before mastering the art of peace. The Empire Fleet Commander, Admiral Crotus, added his own grim assessment. Commander Zeftal, your species achieved interstellar flight through gradual development over millennia. You explored your solar system for centuries before venturing to other stars. You united your world before seeking contact with others. As did all civilized species, Zeftal replied. The humans did none of these things, Admiral Crotus continued. They developed nuclear weapons within a century of discovering electricity. They created delivery systems capable of destroying their own planet before they achieved stable spaceflight. They remained divided into competing nation-states, each armed with enough destructive power to render their world uninhabitable. Kthar was analyzing new data from Earth's surface. Commander, the human governments are in emergency session. They have detected our ships and are mobilizing their military forces. The main screen showed frantic activity across Earth. Military bases were going to high alert, nuclear submarines were diving to combat depths, and missile silos were cycling through readiness checks. You see, Admiral Nexus observed grimly. Their first response to detecting alien presence is not curiosity or wonder. It is preparation for war. But surely that is rational, Zeftal protested. Unknown ships in one's system would provoke caution in any species. Watch their historical response patterns, Commodore Zirin replied. The screen filled with data from human first contact scenarios throughout their history. European contact with the Americas. Chinese contact with isolated tribes. African contact with explorers. In every case, the pattern was the same: initial cooperation followed by conflict, often resulting in the destruction of one civilization or the other. They have no concept of peaceful coexistence with equals, Admiral Crotus explained. Their entire history is one of conquest, resistance, and warfare. Even their cultural exchanges are aggressive in nature. But they must have some diplomatic traditions, Zeftal insisted. Show him the current conflict analysis, Admiral Nexus commanded. New data appeared, showing active warfare across Earth. Dozens of separate conflicts, involving millions of combatants, raging simultaneously. This is their natural state, Commodore Zirin explained. constant warfare. They fight over territory, resources, ideology, religion, and concepts we cannot even translate. They have been in a state of continuous conflict for their entire recorded history. Zeftal studied the data with growing unease. Surely this is simply a primitive phase. All species experience conflict during development. Not like this, Admiral Crotus replied grimly. Most species develop past the need for large-scale warfare before achieving spaceflight capability. The humans have perfected the art of war to a degree that would impress our most elite military academies. The screen showed human military capabilities in detail. Strategic mobility that could deploy forces anywhere on their planet within hours. Logistics networks capable of sustaining millions of combatants indefinitely. Weapons systems of remarkable sophistication and destructive power. Their military technology, Admiral Nexus observed, advances far faster than their peaceful technology. They have developed methods of killing each other that we never considered. Examples flashed across the screen. Chemical weapons that attacked the nervous system. Biological weapons that targeted specific genetic markers. Psychological warfare techniques that could break the will of entire populations. But, why does this require quarantine? Zeftal asked. Surely they are limited by their primitive space technology. Watch their technology development curve, Commodore Zirin replied. A graph appeared showing human technological advancement over time. The curve was exponential, with acceleration increasing rather than plateauing. They developed nuclear weapons in less than 6 years once they understood the basic principles. They went from first flight to orbital capability in 54 years. They created global communication networks in 30 years. Their technology development rate is unprecedented in galactic history. And, all of it, Admiral Crotus added, is immediately militarized. The evidence was overwhelming. Rockets became intercontinental ballistic missiles. Nuclear physics became nuclear weapons. Computer networks became cyber warfare tools. Satellite technology became spy satellites and communication interception systems. Project their development curve forward, Admiral Nexus commanded. The graph extended into the future, showing projected human capabilities based on their current advancement rate. Within 50 years, they would have fusion power. Within a century, they would achieve faster than light travel. Within 2 centuries, they would possess technology rivaling any galactic civilization. And, when they do, Admiral Crotus said quietly, they will bring their wars with them. The implications hit Zeftal like a physical blow. A species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare, suddenly, armed with galactic-level technology. The analysis is clear, Commodore Zirin explained. Based on human behavioral patterns, they would attempt to conquer any species they encountered. Their entire civilization is built around the concept of victory through superior force. Show him the cultural analysis, Admiral Nexus ordered. Human entertainment appeared on screen. Movies, books, games, and stories, almost all centered around conflict, conquest, and warfare. Even their sports were mock battles, their business practices were described in military terms, and their political systems were based on competition rather than cooperation. Their culture glorifies violence, Admiral Crotus observed. They worship warriors, celebrate conquest, and teach their children that strength determines worth. They are a species of natural predators who have learned to hunt with technology instead of claws. Furthermore, Commodore Zirin added, they are incapable of accepting defeat. Their history shows countless examples of continued resistance long after rational analysis would suggest surrender. Examples filled the screen. Guerrilla movements that continued for decades against overwhelming odds. Civilian populations that chose death over submission. Military units that fought to the last soldier rather than surrender. They would rather die than admit weakness, Admiral Nexus concluded. And, they would certainly never accept the authority of alien civilizations. Zeftal was beginning to understand the scope of the problem. You are suggesting that first contact with humans would inevitably lead to war. Not suggesting. Stating as established fact, Admiral Crotus replied. Every simulation we have run, every psychological profile we have developed, every strategic analysis we have completed reaches the same conclusion. Contact with humans means war. And, given their technological development rate, Commodore Zirin added, that war would not remain localized to their system. The screen showed invasion scenarios. Human forces, armed with captured alien technology, spreading across the galaxy like a plague. Their rapid adaptation rate and natural aggression making them unstoppable once they achieved technological parity. They learn faster than any species on record, Admiral Nexus explained. They reverse-engineer technology within years that took other species centuries to develop. They adapt tactics on the battlefield in real time. They treat every conflict as a learning opportunity. And they never forget, Admiral Crotus added grimly. Human cultures maintain grudges across generations. They will plan revenge for decades, passing hatred from parents to children until they achieve satisfaction. The picture was complete. Humanity was not quarantined because they were primitive or dangerous to themselves. They were quarantined because they represented an existential threat to galactic civilization itself. So you maintain this watch, Zeftal said slowly, to prevent them from achieving spaceflight? Not prevent. Delay. Admiral Nexus corrected. We monitor their development, study their capabilities, and prepare for the inevitable. Inevitable? Commander, Commodore Zirin said with something approaching sadness, the humans will eventually develop interstellar capability whether we intervene or not. Their technology curve is too steep, their development too rapid. We estimate they will achieve faster-than-light travel within the next century. When that happens, Admiral Crotus continued, every galactic civilization will face the same choice, unite against the human threat, or be conquered by it. The communication channel fell silent as the implications sank in. The greatest military powers in the galaxy were not just monitoring Earth. They were preparing for the war they knew was coming. Sir, Vryn reported quietly, we are receiving a new transmission from Earth. It appears to be directed at us specifically. From the humans? Zeftal asked in amazement. Yes, sir. Basic mathematical sequences, followed by what appears to be linguistic patterns. They are attempting to establish communication. On the screen, the message played out. Simple mathematical concepts, followed by increasingly complex patterns that suggested intelligence, curiosity, and a desire for peaceful contact. For a moment, Zeftal felt hope. Perhaps the other commanders were wrong. Perhaps humans could be peaceful. Then, Admiral Nexus's voice cut through his optimism like a blade. Commander, monitor their military preparations while they send that message. The screen split to show both the peaceful communication attempt and the simultaneous mobilization of human military forces. Nuclear weapons were being readied, armies were deploying, and space agencies were frantically preparing their most advanced rockets. The humans were offering peace with one hand while preparing for war with the other. It was, Zeftal realized with growing horror, the most human response possible. As he watched Earth's blue marble spinning peacefully in the void, surrounded by 47 alien warships maintaining their careful vigil, Zeftal finally understood why the galaxy feared a single primitive world. It wasn't because humans were strong. It was because they were human.